Hello everyone, this is Serious Trivia and today we have another Commandery guide video. It has been a while since I did one of these, but a subscriber did request a guide on NanHai, so I thought it might be a good time to refresh this series with a slightly updated look and make a comprehensive guide on this lucrative commandery in the south. So let's get started first by locating this commandery on the map. As we can see here, NanHai, which in Chinese translate to the South Sea, is located right on the coast of the South China Sea here. It starts the game off as an abandoned commandery that can be colonized by a migration strategy or taken later on in the game as you expand toward the south. But by being abandoned, it also means that for all factions, this commandery will start off as a blank slate. And because its commandery capital is located on a water source, one of the 6 building slots will automatically default to a harbor building. And aside from its commandery capital, NanHai also has 3 distinct specialty counties, starting with a trade port located here slightly to the east of the capital. On the right side of the screen, I have also listed out the 3 possible final options for the level 5 upgrade of the port, which we will discuss in a little bit. Next up, NanHai also has a livestock farm located here, a little bit to the north, and a rice paddy located here. So with these 3 combination of specialty counties and the fact that NanHai comes with a harbor building, we can start to consider what the optimum builds are for this commandery. Since we have 1 peasantry income county, 1 commerce income county, and a commerce income harbor building already in place, the best option here in terms of income should be a good mix of peasantry and commerce income. So based on that logic, for the trade port, we can first look at the first option that gives us 200 flat commerce income. This is a decent option, as the second option, which gives a mix of commerce and industry income, becomes less attractive here in NanHai because we want to avoid the 3 income source situation where we run out of building slot trying to optimize all 3. However, the best option here for the trade port will be the third option, as it not only provides the most flat base commerce income, but it also provides a 50% global multiplier to spice income. And given NanHai's position on the map, it's not hard to imagine that once you control NanHai, the 3 spice commanderies in the south should also fall under your control soon enough. So this gives the third option extra value. Moving on to the livestock farm, we have the standard trade-off between more peasantry income but less food, or more food but less peasantry income. Clearly, if we're going to go for the optimum income build, we are going to go with the 5 food and 140 peasantry income option. But if we end up trying to maximize food production in NanHai, then the 7 food and 120 peasantry income option also comes into play. Now, I'm saying this because food production is definitely a route you can consider with NanHai, as it also has the rice paddy county, which can produce up to 12 food in total. If you add on the 7 food from livestock farm and potentially more food from fishing from the harbor building, NanHai could become one of the biggest food producing commanderies in the game. Following this line of thought, let's weigh our option here between food and money by first taking a look at the food build that is possible in NanHai. Like we just mentioned, NanHai has 5 possible sources of food production, with its livestock farm, rice paddies, and harbor building, plus the standard land development and government support buildings that can be built. This combination of buildings would require us to have at least a level 7 small regional city unlocked, as it will enable the level 5 upgrades for the harbor and government support buildings, so the settlement itself will eat away at 16 food. Additionally, to acquire these building upgrades and to maximize food production, we will need the following 12 reforms. Critically, 4 of these reforms as shown here also provides additional food producing multipliers. So if we take all these factors into consideration, we can now do some math to figure out the maximum amount of food that we can yield in NanHai. First, we can total up the base food from farming by adding the 7 food from the livestock farm with the 12 from rice paddies and the 5 from the land development building for a total of 24 food from farming. Now the multiplier for this food from farming would be the 150% from the government support building plus the 50% from the reform for a total of 200%. Additionally, We have 6 food from fishing from our harbor building, which is boosted by the same 150% from government support building, plus additional 100% from reforms, for a total of 250%. If we add up all these, we have 24 times 3, plus 6 times 3.5, minus the 16 food consumed by the small regional city, for a total of 77 food. While this is a lot of food, it is also a lot of investment in terms of reforms and building upgrades to get to this 77 food. I've always advocated for minimum upgrades on your settlement level in all my Commandery guide videos so far, so I'm going to do the same thing here and make a case for a more efficient food production build that only requires a level 4 small city build with just 3 building slots, as only 3 buildings contribute to food production anyways. So we alter our build like the one shown here. The only difference here is that we can no longer upgrade our harbor and government support building to level 5, as that will require your settlement to be a small regional city or higher, but the specialty counties and the land development building can still be maxed out to level 5. In terms of reforms, we also go down from the 12 reforms for max food production to just the 8 required for this cost-efficient build shown here. This does mean that we do lose out on 3 of the 4 reforms that provide additional food multipliers, as we are now only left with 1 that boosts food from farming by 25%. So with all these changes, we can revisit our math, which still has 25 total food from farming, but with the loss of a government support upgrade level and 1 reform, we're now only down to 125% food multiplier from farming. Our food from fishing goes down by 1 to 5, but the multiplier is now just 100% from the level 4 government support building. So if we tally that up, we have 24 times 2.25 plus 5 times 2 minus the only 2 food needed for a small city to have a total of 62 food. It is a loss of 15 food from our max food build, but the amount of money, time, and reform required for this build is much cheaper when compared to the max food build. So I highly recommend this version in your games if all you want out of NanHai is to supply the rest of your empire with food. Now that we have seen the food side of the story, it's time for us to look at the money side, as I did name NanHai one of the 12 most lucrative commanderies in the game in our top 12 commandery guide, so it would be a shame to not exploit NanHai for its wealth. To start, we first find the source of our wealth by looking at which buildings provide us with peasantry income. As shown here, we have the livestock farm specialty county, plus 3 buildings in the land development, government support, and the tax collection building that can provide us peasantry income. Additionally, we have 5 sources of commerce income with the trade port specialty county, plus 4 buildings in the harbor, inn, market wharf, and the private workshop buildings. However, immediately we come across our first issue, as we have a total of 7 buildings that we want to build, but the game only allows 6 building slots, even if we upgrade our settlement all the way up to a level 10 imperial city shown here. So which buildings should we remove? First off, the 3 peasantry buildings are all must builds, as the peasantry income scale extremely well given population could bring along additional 350% peasantry income multiplier. So the building we should remove should come from the commerce income side, and from the 4 buildings, the harbor is a must build, and the inn provides a mix of base and percentage commerce income boosts. So the building we have to really consider is either we want to remove the private workshop or the market wharf. Like we have discussed many times before in many of our other guides and Let's Plays, when choosing between these 2 buildings that provides commerce income multipliers, we should always pick the private workshop first, as it is superior in every single way to the market wharf. It costs less to build, it costs less to upkeep, it provides more commerce income multiplier, and it provides a building synergy discount that reduces the cost of your inn and harbor upgrades. So if we get rid of the market wharf, we end up with our final build here. That includes the harbor, inn, private workshop, land development, government support, and tax collection buildings. And to build and upgrade these buildings, we will need the following 24 reforms. And from these reforms, we can gain additional 75% boost to commerce income, 40% boost to silk and spice income, and 30% boost to peasantry income, along with other passive bonuses for your game. Since it is a lot of reforms, if you're wondering where you should start, then I will have to recommend these 7 reforms shown here, which is the Onyx Dragon Rush strategy. Going for these reforms will help you out most in the early game, as it provides you with these 6 helpful bonuses listed here, which includes additional trade agreements, which is a great source of early game income, along with other great benefits. Additionally, this reform path is named the Onyx Dragon Rush because as you unlock all these reforms, you will also unlock the powerful Onyx Dragon unit in game for all your generals to recruit. Like we have mentioned in our reform guides before, this is the single most powerful range unit in the game with its superior range and damage. So not only will this reform path help your economy build up, it will also help you out on the battlefield as well. So let's continue by taking a look at this build in action. In order that they should be built to maximize your Wuxing synergy discounts, we have the harbor, tax collection, private workshop, inn, land development, and government support buildings. For the harbor, we went with the spice port route. As with the trade port, you should have control of the spice resources in the south, so following the same logic, you want to maximize your spice multiplier. In line with that same logic, the inn building is also the superior tea version as shown here, as there are plenty of tea resources around NanHai for you to have at least secured one. However, despite the high numbers you see here, this build is obviously a fantasy, as it only focuses on income, and it does a great job of that, because we can see that even without administrator assignment boosts, we already have over 9,000 income per turn with this build. But we say this build is a fantasy because it relies on the 350% peasantry boost from population that you will actually never get with this build, because in the base game of Total War 3 Kingdom, population translate directly into public order issues, as shown by this chart. And with a tax collection building on top of this, it adds another negative 20 public order to your commandery. So you're guaranteed to have negative public order in this commandery no matter how many troops you garrison or how many public order reforms you take. So with a negative public order in this commandery, your population will never grow. So you're not going to see a single point of that 350% boost from population, because you're going to end up with a 0 population commandery with constant rebellion spawning around. So in this scenario, the real income you're going to see with this build is actually a little less than 6,300 income per turn, as your peasantry multiplier goes way down. So to fix this, it will actually be better for your income and for your rebellion situation if you exchange your tax collection building for a confusion temple. With this simple exchange, you can see the income shift up to a bit over 7,500 income per turn before any additional boost from administrator assignment. While it's not the highest income producing commandery in the game, this ends up being one of the better ones. So at the end of our guide, we still need to briefly talk about corruption, as it is one way that will eat into your income in the mid and late game. It is a topic that we have already talked extensively in our separate corruption guide, and something I think most seasoned players have already learned to overcome. But in case you're new to the game, here's a rundown on how to overcome corruption in NanHai. First, given that NanHai is one of your most lucrative commanderies, it deserves an administrator. And once it has an administrator in place, the administrator will provide 30% corruption reduction in the commandery. The rest will utilize adjacency bonuses in the game to overcome. And when we're talking about adjacency bonuses, we're talking about 2 buildings in particular, namely the State Workshop, which provides 15% anti-corruption, and the Administrative Office, which provides another 20%, in both the commandery they're built in and adjacent commanderies. So since we suggested neither of these buildings to be built in NanHai, let's take a look at NanHai's adjacency neighbors to see where these buildings should go. As we see here, NanHai has exactly 5 adjacent commanderies, and 3 of them have industry income specialty counties in them. so they are perfect for the state workshop building that will provide us with 15% corruption reduction. So that's another 45% total on top of the 30% from the administrator for a total of 75%. Add in corruption reduction from reforms, copper mines, and your leader, heir, and prime minister, you should have a corruption-free, rebellion-free NanHai, capable of producing well over 7,500 income a turn. And with that, this completes our guide on NanHai. Hope you guys enjoyed this. NanHai, with its potential as a high-income late-game commandery and a great source of early-game food production, is the ideal landing spot for any early-game migration strategies to the south. So hopefully you can use this guide to help you build something great in your next game. Thank you all for watching, and see you next time. Bye!